Welcome to this new edition of Eco Africa, a co-production brought to you by Germany's DW, Nigeria's Channels Television, and Uganda's NTV, which is represented on the show by my wonderful co-presenter, Sandra.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris, and it is good to see you again. And of course, we do have a great show coming up shortly here on Eco Africa. How e-tractors are making farming easier in Rwanda. Why baobab trees are so important for nature protection. And the fight over the that scarce resource, water in France. They are the world's tallest land-dwelling creatures, and I think they also look rather lovely. Giraffes. Sadly, there are fewer and fewer of them because even giraffes are being poached in their droves for their meat or their coat, or even because people believe in the healing powers of their organs. Now, let us take a look at a conservancy in Kenya that is especially dedicated to the protection of giraffes.
From the outside, this looks like a brutal capture. But these gamekeepers want to transport this giraffe to safer ground on the mainland. Rising water levels on Lake Baringo turned a section of the giraffe's conservation area into an island. So in 2021, the Ruko Wildlife Conservancy managed to relocate 7 stranded animals. All of them endangered Rothschild's giraffes, distinguishable by their white lower legs. It was over a decade ago that the Conservancy and the local community first joined forces to create a sanctuary for giraffes. But a few years ago, manager Rebi Sabay says it became clear that those stranded on the newly emerged island were suffering badly.
At the island, there were a lot of challenges. Number one, the giraffes had a constant attack by diseases. Second, there was less forage. Third, there was a attack by python that could strangle the young ones, and also the crocodile. So comparing the island and the mainland, we saw that the challenges are more in island than in mainland.
Rothschild's giraffes are mainly found in savannas, like here in the Baringo region. In Kenya and neighbouring Uganda, only about 1,400 can still be found today. Their numbers have been greatly reduced, mainly due to poaching. But with the involvement of the community, the situation is improving, helped by a 17 square kilometre giraffe sanctuary established within the Ruko Conservancy. The elegant animals are watched over by rangers and members of the Twiga Walinzi, or Giraffe Guard initiative. Robert Parillo is one of them. Having grown up here, he knows a lot about the giraffes.
When we were children, we were told that the Rothschild giraffe originated from Baringo and was called the Baringo giraffe. Its meat was said to be very sweet, and the bones contained a very special type of fat that people used for medicinal purposes.
Today, what matters most to him is that the animals can thrive and reproduce. The monitoring team regularly checks their numbers and looks out for injuries. At the moment, there are 14 Rothschild's giraffes in the Ruko area. The initiative not only benefits the giraffes, but also the people who live here, the Ilchamos and the Pokot. These pastoral communities have a long history of conflict over animals and grazing land.
There's been no peace around the Ruko area right now, until when the 2 elders from the 2 communities sat down. They said that we need to do a wildlife conservancy. We need to reintroduce Rothschild giraffe, famously known as a Baringo giraffe, as a symbol of unity, and start now a conservation so that it can bring the 2 communities together.
But to do this, they needed both land and giraffes, which had disappeared from Baringo. Each community contributed land, and the Conservancy brought in 8 Rothschild's giraffes from another nature reserve. Meanwhile, community members are also benefiting. 30 people have found jobs as rangers or giraffe guards, like Robert Parillo. The communities also receive a portion of the Conservancy's income, which they mainly use to pay children's school fees. The kids have also developed a respect for the animals.
I tell my parents that the giraffes are good because they help generate revenue from tourism and they also fertilize the soil.
The project is supported by international NGOs and is now well accepted by both communities.
We can now talk about how to protect the animals, how we can develop guidelines to protect them and their pastures, and what we can do to create new employment opportunities, and what new things we can introduce so that we can continue to grow. So we have really benefited since bringing these animals here.
The giraffes have settled in well at the sanctuary. Their numbers have nearly doubled in the past decade, from 8 to 14. And there are more babies on the way. 2 of the females are pregnant.
From the beautiful landscape in Kenya to the farmers, you are out in the fields and you hear a loud throbbing engine and the smell of the stench of diesel. Is that really progress? What do you think?
Well, anyone who wants to trade in the rocks for a tractor usually has to buy a diesel-powered vehicle. But there are more environmentally friendly alternatives. We went to a farm in Rwanda where they've created an e-tractor, a role model for others.
It's just a normal working day for members of the Dukware cooperative near Kigali. The villagers till their fields by hand. The many helpers are busy for weeks.
Cultivating a large area like this using just hose is difficult. We do it because there's no other options. If we had a cultivation machine, we could produce more with less effort.
There are a few tractors around, but often they are older vehicles that were no longer wanted in Europe. They tend to be noisy and dirty. Diesel is also not always available, and rising fuel costs mean that they are often economically unviable. From the outside, the solution looks remarkably similar. A 2.2-ton tractor with a 27 horsepower engine, but the motor is electrically powered. A German car maker developed this e-tractor prototype along with the University of Kigali and the GIZ German Development Agency.
It's a converted diesel tractor into an electric tractor. You see, we just replaced the diesel engine with an electric motor and put the battery on top of that. And there you see the swapping desk. You see the second battery on this desk. And when you come in here, you can move it forth and back. And then with that, you can release the battery and shove it back and put the full battery on the tractor itself and can then resume working.
The batteries are charged using solar energy. Solar electricity isn't just clean, it can also be used off-grid. Only half of Rwanda is actually connected to the grid. Bernard Mayanzikwiye and his team from the University of Rwanda are working on making the batteries more robust so that the e-tractor can soon go to work on the dusty, sun-baked fields.
Rwanda needs e-tractor for agricultural mechanization. It will be user-friendly because of reducing the pollution. Thirdly, it will maximize the productivity, agricultural productivity.
Rwanda has to increase its agricultural productivity to help feed its rapidly growing population. Longer periods of drought linked to climate change are increasing the pressure to make farming more effective and sustainable. The fact that the e-tractor is intended for use in more remote areas is a particular challenge for the developers in the team of VW engineer Hogalangi.
The main point is to make an electric tractor as simple and easy as possible because it should be easy to operate. And the other thing is, when it is simple, it's easy to maintain and to repair.
To make the tractor suitable for working Rwandan fields, the prototype has to be further improved. So the team of developers traveled through the country speaking to potential future users.
We want input how the tractor should be designed, what will be the tasks of those tractors, and we also want to take into account some other activities that can be done by that tractor.
And ploughing isn't the only job the tractor should be able to tackle here in Rwanda. Productivity and farming areas can only be increased if other farming jobs can be automated as well. The developers are testing whether it can be harnessed to help irrigate the crops.
Today we are testing the pump being operated on an electric tractor. So you can use it for cultivation using your plow, that could be a disc plow. Then you can also hook up a planter, 2-row, 4-row planter it can pull, then you can use it for planting. And then other tasks that we can use the e-tractor is for spraying, that is your crop protection for pests and diseases.
All tasks that have been carried out manually up to now. Many farmers cannot imagine that the e-tractor is going to be ready anytime soon. But they do realize what a difference it might make.
If there really is such a tractor and it's available to us, it will be seen as a liberator for farmers because we won't have to work so hard to get our work done.
The e-tractor is going to be rolled out in 2024. The idea is that it will be purchased by an entire village rather than an individual farmer. Managed by a cooperative, the vehicle will make a lot of tasks easier.
So don't forget to blink.
Staying in the countryside, this time in Ghana. The baobab is a holy tree across Africa. It's a powerful sign of nature, and many people use the leaves for different purposes. But how can we treat it with the respect it deserves? This week's Doing Your Bit has the answer.
When the dry season has passed and the baobabs sprout their leaves again, women in Ghana set out to harvest. It's hard and dangerous work because baobabs can grow to more than 20 meters high, and the women have to climb to the outermost branches to cut the leaves. In the past, they'd only harvest for themselves, but now there's also demand for the leaves at international markets.
First, we head out to collect the leaves. We make soup with some of them and dry some of them to sell at the market in neighboring Burkina Faso.
For the trees, this is a fatal development. Little by little, baobabs have been disappearing from the region.
Once you cut the branches, the tree is not going to fruit for some years. And the women won't even leave the tree to stay up to those years to fruit again. So every year they keep cutting and cutting and cutting. So that is the resultant effect in the leaves harvesting on the declining nature of the trees.
That's why Julius Awaigya from the organization Indigenous Initiatives and Sustainability is working to end this destructive harvesting practice. He goes to the affected regions to provide training on how to manage the trees sustainably. The NGO also runs nurseries that breed baobabs. The seedlings go to local families who plant them on their land. This gives them the chance to make some extra income, while at the same time helping to halt the disappearance of these iconic trees in Ghana.
And how about you?
And how about you?
If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it.
Tell us about it.
Visit our website. Or send us a tweet. Hashtag
doing your bit.
We share
your stories.
From Africa to Europe now. Summers are getting drier by the year. France is particularly affected. Some farmers are worried about drought. Nevertheless, they are against plans by the French government to collect rainwater in huge quantities. We wanted to understand why.
People gathering by the thousands to protest at a construction site. The demonstration took place in western France in March 2023. When police intervened, the situation turned violent. resulting in serious injuries on both sides. And this is the project in question, a water reservoir. As climate change causes more frequent droughts, the new reservoir is meant to provide local farmers with enough water to irrigate in dry periods. But not everyone welcomes it. The people here in Sainte-Soline, a village of less than 400, are divided. Mathieu Perrault is one of the farmers in favor of the project. His connection to the reservoir was already in place.
Before the protest, we took hay bales and wooden planks and made a little structure to put over it, which we covered in dirt. But some of them knew what it was and torched the whole thing.
Perrault farms 170 hectares of land. He grows mainly wheat and corn, crops that do poorly without additional irrigation during the hot summer months. Rémi Laurendeau is also a farmer, but he's opposed to the reservoir. He waters the vegetables he grows on 3 hectares from a well right on the property.
Voici mon puits. Hop.
The water level has dropped over the past 2 weeks. Normally it overflows in winter. But right now, it's at least 2 meters lower.
Il déborde. Et là, il manque à peu près, je dirais bien 2 mètres.
He's worried that his well could run dry if more rainwater is caught in the basin and less seeps into the groundwater.
Je n'y aurai pas accès.
I won't have access to the reservoir. I haven't got much land, so it doesn't make financial sense to put in a connection. It wouldn't be worth it.
The locals who aren't directly involved in agriculture are somewhat caught between the fronts.
When you listen to those in favor, they have really good arguments. So do those who are opposed to it. I confess, I don't have a clear opinion.
It's a massive construction site for just 12 farmers. I think it's a public good. These people will monopolize some of the water.
Reservoirs like this are being constructed all over France as part of a government plan to support the farming industry. Climate activists say it's foolish to capture and hold water when it's already scarce. They say a better solution would be to switch to a less water-intensive agriculture. Environmental journalist Marc Lomazzi believes conflicts over water will only increase, and not just in the agriculture sector.
I think Sainte-Soline is just the beginning of what will happen in France as water scarcity intensifies. We will have shortages, we will have rationing, and at some point there won't be enough water to go around.
Vegetable farmer Rémi Laurendeau also wants the project stopped, but he's concerned about the violence of the protests in March.
It wasn't a war exactly, but somehow similar. Since the protests, I can't go anywhere near the reservoir. It was all too much.
Mathieu Perrault also fears another round of violent protests. But he can't see the issue resolving itself anytime soon.
There's no more discussion. It's impossible to talk to people who are only willing to talk on the condition that you respect their actions.
The dispute in Sainte-Soline is just like that of many communities in central and southern France. And when temperatures start to rise, the battle over water is only bound to intensify.
Back to Africa now, and we're talking about women. What's so special about them, dear Sandra? And also regarding the environment.
Well, Chris, we are sisters, friends, and mothers. Women across the world shoulder great responsibilities, and many are also particularly committed to protecting Mother Nature. Perhaps because we understand how important a healthy planet is for our descendants. Our last report takes us to South Africa, where we meet a few special women working to preserve traditional practices and knowledge there.
For the Venda people of South Africa, trees are sacred, each and every one. Today, Vo Makazadi Joyce and a group of students are planting 20 in northern Limpopo province. The organization Zomo Lamupo, or Voice of Nature, has planted over 100 trees in the village of Chidzive in the past few weeks. Since 2000, Limpopo has lost 17% of its indigenous forest cover as trees were raised to make way for plantations and mining.
The organization exists to give a voice to nature, which cannot speak for itself. We believe it is our responsibility to protect the environment and its inhabitants. As a child, I was taught to respect trees and not to cut them down indiscriminately. Trees are like the elders of living things. When we destroy them, we lose a part of our heritage and our connection to the natural world.
Elders are highly respected in Venda culture. Vo Makazadi Joyce is a Makachi, a female leader who upholds traditional knowledge of seeds, soil and nature, which she passes on to younger generations.
I love planting trees. Not only do trees produce oxygen, they also help us in so many other ways. They provide us medicine, wood for furniture, and delicious fruits to eat. Planting trees makes me feel good.
Zomo Lamupo's Makaji work closely with other communities to address issues such as food security, land degradation, biodiversity loss, and climate change. These elders seek to foster a deeper understanding and appreciation of their natural and cultural heritage. As the voice of nature, they also defend their land against potential threats. And these wise elders are in big demand. Today, the chief of Chidzive consults with Vo Makazadi Joyce regarding a proposed coal mine development near their village. The mine needs their approval to go ahead, but the two leaders are skeptical.
I won't allow mining here. Mine workers will die from the gases they breathe are like poison. The pollution makes the whole community sick. If the water's contaminated, the trees will die too. It's like sitting on top of a bomb.
The chief's concerns are well-founded. In the neighboring province of Mpumalanga, coal mines have caused massive environmental degradation and health problems. But the fear goes further. Venda people believe nature is spiritually interconnected. Trees, rivers, and mountains are living beings with their own personalities. Mining would disrupt this connection and endanger the traditional way of life. In order to protect it, a founding member of Zomo Lamupo, Mpatheleni Makaulule, promotes the cultivation of indigenous crops like finger millet and calabash, thus combining the preservation of cultural heritage with plant diversity. She is setting up a seed bank where farmers can learn about overlooked crops.
The purpose of this seed bank is an educational facility where from children, youth, elders, farmers, they will come and learn here the knowledge around the seed and food system and the ecosystem, because seed does not stay alone, food does not stay alone. Ecosystem is needed for all these systems to work.
In Chidzive, Vo Makazadi Joyce is sharing her knowledge with yet another group of children. The deep conviction that all things are part of a larger whole that connects humans, animals, and nature is taught from a young age. To illustrate that better, she shows them a seasonal calendar based on traditional knowledge. For Vo Makazadi Joyce, culture and the stewardship of nature are one and the same.
Teaching these children about the seasons in a way they can understand practices of their ancestors pass on through generations to ensure that our culture, their culture, and way of life are not lost.
In a world where indigenous cultures and entire ecosystems are under constant threat, Zomo Lamupo is a bastion of hope for the preservation of both.
Wow, very inspiring. Great. I hope you enjoyed the last 26 minutes. Time for me to say goodbye from Nigeria. I am Chris Alems. Goodbye.
And for me as well, I am Sandra Twinodio here in Uganda saying goodbye. Don't forget to check in on us on all our social media platforms if you want to know more about Eco Africa. See you next week, same place, same time. Take care.